Examples. All right. Maybe clients. You don't have to mention any names. Just some real examples of people who have used equity from one property to buy another.
Absolutely. I have some really great stories. I know we're limited on time, so I'll just touch on a couple that are really top of mind because they're all in the last 90 to 120 days that have implemented this stuff. Okay. It is so top of mind right now, the way the economy and the real estate market is. First gentleman is from Vernon, Connecticut, young guy in his late 20s. He had bought a 4-family house in 2017 for $195,000. He put 3.5% down. Very low down payment. Okay, just a couple years ago. He's got 26 years left on his mortgage before he came to me. We refinanced. We got an appraisal of the house today. The one he bought for $195,000 with 3.5% down. Now it's worth $270,000 today.
Oh, wow.
That's the current market value. What we were able to do was refinance him on an FHA loan because that gave him the best ability to pull the most equity out. He pulled out $30,000. Which is more than he even had invested in the property at 3.5% down with his closing years ago. So he got a very good return, and now he's using that money to put down on a rental property, his next property that he's going to be renting out. Of course, with it being a 4-family, he lives in one unit, exactly what we're talking about, and he rents out the other 3, and the other 3 more than cover his mortgage, even with the additional cash out that he took. So that's one example. Another one is an older family that's nearing retirement in Hartford. They've lived in their home for 20 plus years. They actually only had 8 years left on their mortgage. They had taken a 15-year note on their loan, on their home, I should say, and they had 8 years to pay left on it. So they had a lot of equity built up. What we did with them was kind of a two-step or a two-pronged strategy. Number one was we used their equity to pay off all their debt. They had some personal loans and auto loans. We paid off all their debt. And on top of that, handed them $80,000 in cash at closing that they're using to now buy their retirement home. It's going to be a vacation home for now, and in a couple years, they're going to move there as their primary home, and they're actually buying this property down in Florida. That's where they ultimately want to move to. So that $80,000 is going to be enough for them to put down and all their closing costs on their dream home in Florida. And again, their debt is completely paid off. We just put them back on a 15-year mortgage. Wow. When we look at the debt that was paid and the amount of their new mortgage, their payment net to them actually went down by $400 a month.
That's incredible.
So that $400 a month now is their nut to start that they can put more away in savings. And then ultimately when they buy the house in Florida, that's a huge leg up on that new mortgage because $80,000 is not going to buy you a house in cash.
Right.
Okay, they are going to have a new mortgage, but they're $400 ahead from the beginning. So like I said, they can now apply that savings to the new mortgage payment. And then the last example that I'll give you is a middle-aged couple in Thomaston, Connecticut that came to me. They as well had a 15-year mortgage with only 6 years left. And they really had a hard time. Took a few months of our conversations and strategizing to get them comfortable with going from 6 years to pay off their home. They have no other properties right now, and take them back to a 15-year mortgage. But what we were able to do, this is going to blow your mind. We took them back to that 15-year mortgage. We dropped their interest rate, of course. On all these scenarios, we dropped their interest rate. We pulled out $75,000 that now they're going to use to buy another property. And their payment actually went down by $250 a month. The key, as you'll be hearing these last couple scenarios I've given you in real life stories, the key was that they took a short-term mortgage or they paid extra on their mortgage. They built all this equity. People that are constantly, paying the minimum payment or refinancing all the time and not building equity, you're not going to be able to implement this. It may take several years, 2 to 5 years in a normal housing market for you to build enough equity to do this. But these ones that are just mind-blowing, they paid their mortgage down aggressively. And that's what gave them, though, the opportunities to tap that equity now. When the home values are high, let's go in, let's pounce. Now's the time.
Those are great stories, Rob. In fact, they're inspiring stories. How about discussing maybe a few ways a home flipper or even a renovator could use these same strategies?
Amazing opportunities for home renovator and home flippers. So there's a specific method that, it can be looked up online. It's a very common method. It's called the BRRR method, which stands for buy, renovate, refinance, repeat. Okay, you can look it up, BRRR. So that's how a home flipper or renovator can use these. Is I just had a gentleman that I worked with who bought a condo in cash just 6 months ago. He did a little bit of work to the property. He has a tenant in there. It's an investment property. And it's doubled in value since he bought it. Because, again, a little bit of work he put in. He got a great deal when he bought it. And, again, the market, of course, the market going up so much. So he did exactly this. He bought in cash. He did a little renovation. Now we did the third step, the refinance. We used the current market value of the property. He pulled out all of the equity that he originally put in because he bought in cash, and then another $30,000 on top of that. So now he's got this nice nut, this nice nest egg, and now is the last step of the BRRR method, which is repeat. So he's just going to go and do this again. Buy in cash, renovate. He's going to come to me. We're going to refinance the property after 6 months. He's going to have a tenant in there, and now he can repeat this. And this is a gentleman that's very young, just starting out, and he understands these strategies. He knew that there was an opportunity here. He just didn't know how to implement it. He found me online. He found me on YouTube through some of the videos that I have on there about these methods and reached out to me, and we were able to put this customized plan together for him. So home flippers and these renovators, you see there's a huge opportunity for them, especially when you look long term, not only at this property, but how can we build this out over several properties in the course of a few years?
You know what I find interesting in listening to these stories is that this is not necessarily a young person's game. I mean, you're sure we can both kid each other, or maybe there's some truth to it where you say, man, if I had known now, or if I had known then what I know now. But in listening to this, you spoke about a middle-aged couple. You told about somebody who had paid most of their home off, and they only 15 years or 8 years. You really can be any age to get into this. I mean, it's better. Sure, anything is better when you're younger. Of course, investing is better when you're younger.
Start younger, and you'll have these big opportunities. These people that we're talking about that had 6 years, 8 years left on their mortgage. Few years ago, they weren't in this position. You look to when they started, they just knew, hey, building equity is good. I want to do that. They didn't know when they took a 15-year mortgage 6, 7, 8 years ago that they were going to want to use the equity to buy another house. That was not in their deck of cards at that point.
Right.
But they knew building equity would give them opportunity. Now their life is changing. The economy is changing. The market's changing. But because they've been disciplined in paying their homes down, in building that equity, and then had a little bit of luck here with the market going up so much recently, now is the time to pounce on the opportunity. But obviously, the earlier you start, the more opportunities you're going to have, the more time you're going to have to get all this done.
Folks, you are listening to Mortgage Matters Radio Show with Rob Weinberg. I'm Gary Byron. You can get a hold of Rob if you like what you're listening to. I know I do. Oh, my goodness. I'm sitting here going, oh, my goodness, I've missed the boat on so many things. Well, maybe on some things I didn't, though. 860-413-3938. Once again, it's area code 860-413-3938.